This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast, episode 742. Woo! We are back. Are you going to start doing the woos again?
Maybe.
Please no. Please no.
Got a Nature Boy Ric Flair up in here. Woo!
This is an NBA podcast. Come on, man.
Have some respect.
Triple H is back, though. He's the WWE champion. So, I mean,
so it could be 1999 when you're listening to this.
Could be
Absolutely.
1999. I am Sean Anderson. Alongside me is Ricky Widmer and Dave Oster for the second time. And today we're going to be talking about the idiot himself.
Is that going to become a thing, too? For the third time.
Yeah, it is a Cal Ripken-like streak.
For the 2,169th time, Dave Oster joining us here on the Fast Break Podcast.
Well done.
Today we're talking about the idiot himself, Blake Griffin, the #1 overall pick in 2011. He's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, but Doc doesn't believe that. He thinks it's going to be longer than that for punching a player assistant. How does Blake's injury change this West?
It doesn't change a lot because the Clippers, regardless of Blake's status, are still winning. Actually, they're winning
better.
even more without Blake in this lineup, which makes almost no sense until you start to think about how the ball moves much better with him off the court. Blake is, like you said previously, not a big defensive presence. He is fantastic on the lobs. He is great as far as the long distance twos, but that ball, I don't know what it is, but you watch the Clippers play without him. Ball movement's fantastic. It seems like they've got individual roles and everybody's being used a little bit better.
I feel like it's more like Blake Griffin. They need to get him the ball, and Blake's good, like moving the ball. He averages like 5 assists, so he's a good passer. But it's more just like I feel like they want to have Blake Griffin be the star when it should really be Chris Paul.
Yeah,
and then you got to have the offense run through him. I mean, Blake Griffin's the scoring. He's leading the team in scoring when he's on the court. But I think that's just because the offense goes through him. And Blake, I mean, he's been out since December 26th with a knee injury. But from December 26th to today when we're recording it, the Clippers are 14-3 without Blake Griffin in the lineup.
Well, that's like the one thing I was going to say is when they first broke Blake Griffin broke his hand punching an assistant. I kind of looked up at my TV and went, he's not even playing right now.
No.
I'm like he's irrelevant right now. He's been out for so long that I kind of forgot he was even a thing.
I could see that. I mean, it doesn't really. The Clippers are better, and they keep talking about. They kept talking about like how.
Let's be honest. I kind of forgot the Clippers were a thing too, because to me the West is just okay. When do we get
that
to
top three?
Right.
When do we get to the real matchup of the Western Conference Finals when it's Warriors Spurs with Tim Duncan? When do we see that matchup?
Because obviously we see.
You gotta add a little asterisk there for that ass whipping they gave him.
Yeah, well, we see that Tim Duncan should account for 31 points as they lose by 31.
I think that's how it works out.
He's a plus 30 differential, give or take. But I mean, like with Blake Griffin, though, the Clippers to me, maybe it's because I'm not on the West Coast, irrelevant for me. Here in Chicago, I'm just like, oh, okay, he's still a thing. Maybe if he came back and played and then punched the player, I'd be like, okay, this is a bigger thing. But with Blake Griffin, with him being out, it's not going to hurt the Clippers at all because, like Dave said, they're doing great right now. However, the only reason it hurts the Clippers is, okay, if he's not back before this trade deadline, we can't trade him. We need to trade him because we're better without him. That's what if I'm the management, that's what I'm thinking. We're better without him, so let's think about moving him.
And they've shown that they're better without him because JJ's getting more time, Jamal Crawford's getting more time, and he's shooting the lights out. DeAndre Jordan's more of...
DeAndre Jordan proved at the end of last year what he can do when he's working solo down in the post, and it is phenomenal.
Well, that's the reason why Mark Cuban was going to his house and holding him hostage.
Well, I was going to say that's the only thing that Blake Griffin's probably good for, barricading the door with a chair and making sure that DeAndre Jordan doesn't go to Dallas.
I'm surprised he didn't punch DeAndre.
Yeah, you're going to Dallas right across the face with a left hook,
and then he signs it using DeAndre's hand while DeAndre's unconscious. But I mean, I don't think Blake Griffin's like a big factor. I mean, maybe it's because, like we said, we're not watching the West Coast games. But I mean, looking at the stat sheet, he has ridiculous and stupid numbers, like Dave said previously. But he doesn't seem like he should be a huge factor, and it seems like the Clippers have been this team that like they should be good, but they just don't work together. And it seems like once you take out Blake Griffin, they work much better because they can just pass it around and get the open shooter, the open.
Well, I mean, what was it, the Josh Smith effect last year?
Yeah,
you get rid of a big who has great stat sheet number. Well, he didn't have great stat. He had decent numbers, and then all of a sudden your team just picks up and starts working again. So I don't know, something to be said about that.
I mean, yeah, it was Josh Smith went from the Pistons to the Rockets, and it seems like the Rockets kind of clicked, but I don't know what it was because he didn't really add anything to that team.
And now he went back to the Rockets
from the Clippers. Yeah.
The
Clippers are paying the Rockets to keep him too. I mean, Blake Griffin, again, he's just not a huge factor, and I don't know if it's maybe it's his playing style where he needs to have the ball in his hand, and he's not really like a guy who can post up. He's more of a guy who needs to have like space so he can either drive or
How have you
shoot.
described it, Dave? Kind of like a LeBron James game.
It's ugly.
It's ugly. It's not pretty.
like he has the one thing that's great for SportsCenter, which is those alley-oop dunks, and it's fantastic to watch. But outside of that, watching Blake Griffin play, I don't know, it doesn't have the same appeal as watching like Steph Curry go down the court and just drop threes on people. Old school Kobe, just the turnaround, the untouchable turnaround.
That's the thing.
The AI crossover.
The step
Kyrie
over.
even. Like Westbrook, all these players who are fantastic with the ball moving. Blake, I don't know what it is. He's really athletic for big, and yet it's just, you know,
what it is
not appealing.
That he's just big. It's just you can't stop him going to the basket because he's a tank. But like outside of that, if he's not moving, then he's easy to stop.
Yeah.
It just seems like, you know, it's really just, all right, here's a lob by Blake Griffin, and Blake Griffin's in this Clippers highlight because it's a lob, and then you look at the stat sheet and he's got like 24 points because it's like in the fourth quarter in
He's
garbage
like
time.
24 and 14. I'm like, where the did that come from?
Yeah. But DeAndre's a better, like a true big, and he works better in that Clippers system because, you know, they can give it inside that spreads out the floor because everyone's going to flock towards DeAndre, and then DeAndre just passes it out, and JJ Redick's open on the wing for three. Where, you know, Blake Griffin, if they give it inside to DeAndre has to look for Blake Griffin, you know, in a mid-range jumper
a little bit.
Exactly, because then Blake Griffin's out near the three-point line, but he's not at the three-point line, so you can't pass it to JJ.
If that man learned to step
there.
back 3 steps,
well,
his numbers.
Well, a thing that I was going to bring up is there's a guy in Cleveland who's not too happy, and people aren't too happy with him in Cleveland, who can shoot the three.
I'm going to give you a clue. Does his last name have to do with maybe something with a heart? Hearts usually lead to this. Starts with an L. The guy in Cleveland you're talking about?
That is,
Love?
You know what?
What?
Hearts lead to
more
love?
specific.
No?
More specific,
no.
man. I don't understand.
I'm not following that.
Way too broad.
Not sure where he's going with that.
Yeah, neither do I. What I was talking about was Kevin Love.
Oh, yeah, of
the
course.
Cleveland Cavaliers, the big stretch four, who's not having fun in Cleveland and who the Cavs thought was getting traded
I think
when
not
they
having
hired
fun is
Tyronn
probably
Lue.
the best description. That's the nicest way you can say it.
I like how they're atop of the East,
seems
but he's
sad.
not having fun. Not having fun atop of the East.
He seems sad. He doesn't
He's
look
not
like he's
playing
having a
his
fun
game.
time.
Well, he's not the main guy anymore.
Well, I don't
he wouldn't be the
think
main
he
guy.
needs to be the main guy.
With the T-Wolves, he was the main guy, and it's
He
like,
just
cool,
needs to
I'm
not
the
be
leader of
LeBron's
this team.
bitch.
He was
but-
the only guy in Minnesota when that was
Well,
happening too.
He's kind of learning what Chris Bosh had to go through. Because let's think of it this way. This big three in Cleveland is exactly like the big three in Miami, where Kyrie's
I'm
like...
sorry.
Wait. Kyrie comes in, or LeBron comes in. Kyrie goes, wait a second, LeBron. I know that hometown and everything, but I was here when you left, so this is kind of my team. Kind of like D-Wade. The Heat was D-Wade's team.
I'm going to stop you
Chris
right there.
Bosh, Chris Bosh was like the little baby brother, and K-Love is like, wait a second, I don't want to be that. Chris Bosh was happy being that. K-Love is not. That's why he's
I
not
got some
having fun.
fundamental flaws with that because, one, Kyrie Irving didn't win a championship for his city. So Dwayne Wade kind of had that on his shoulder.
Oh, no, I'm not saying
it's my
that
city,
he's
it's my
exactly
team.
D-Wade, but
Kyrie Irving
Kyrie's a
also
little like wait a minute.
Isn't hometown Cleveland, LeBron is. So therefore, it's LeBron's team no matter
However,
when
but
LeBron
when,
wants to play
when
there.
LeBron comes in, it's like, wait a second, you diss this team, you diss this hometown. When you left, I was the one that got drafted and had to kind of put everything back together. So I see it kind of the same way. Not exact carbon copy, but it's kind of the same way. The only difference is K-Love is not Chris Bosh and is not happy being LeBron's bitch.
It's like 10% similar. I'm on Dave's boat. This is not working because Kyrie didn't do like outside of winning Rookie of the Year.
Your best case is there's 3 of them.
Yeah.
And there were 3 of them in Miami. That's what you got going for you right now.
One of them was a power forward.
The bigger
And one of them's
point
LeBron
the bigger point I was trying to make, and this is the part you guys are totally looking over, is that Chris Bosh was okay. Okay, as long as we win a championship, I'm fine being the third wheel.
Chris Bosh chose to follow LeBron though. He already knew what he was signing up for.
K-Love is sitting there going like he gets traded. Okay, I got traded. I didn't choose to come here. However, if we win a championship, that's fine. Yeah. Then they don't win a championship, and he's like, "Well, wait a second. If we're not going to win a championship, why do I have to be the third wheel?"
But also, Chris Bosh was he's a different player than K-Love. I know he's kind of now stepped back to the three, but like Chris Bosh was like used to like playing in the post and just moving around, where K-Love is now like supplanted out and like on the 3-point line. Like he's completely changed his way from like being a versatile player where he's around the court, where Chris Bosh is now just Chris Bosh was used to this in general, so he really didn't have to change up his play style where Kevin Love did.
And the other thing to remember is this is a team that would have probably won the championship last year had they had a healthy team. You got to remember, you didn't have a healthy Kyrie, didn't have a healthy Love.
Love wasn't even in there because of Kelly Olynyk.
Snap.
Just break the arm.
I mean, so I could see the anger over, okay, we didn't win it last year, but I mean, like, it's because he doesn't get to play his game. He's just being I don't want to say like a one-dimensional player, but that's the way that Cleveland has been using him, and I don't see any way of changing that without changing up that roster.
And I think the way you change that roster up is how it took us a long way to get to this, but I honestly see the trade working out perfectly in my head.
Does Blake fit though?
K-Love for Blake Griffin, and honestly,
does he fit?
I think he does because he's kind of similar into what Chris Bosh was in Miami.
He's much closer to it. Yeah,
where he can step out, but he can also drive, and he's also can play the post a little bit. So I feel like he's more similar to that Chris Bosh that LeBron wants. Where K-Love can, he should be moving around consistently, and he shouldn't be supplanted, where Blake Griffin can basically do that.
We're also making the Cavs the ugliest team in the NBA because we've got, who Dave said, Blake Griffin, it just looks ugly. LeBron James just looks ugly.
But at the same time, two of the most athletic bigs in the league that we've ever seen, actually. I mean, think about that.
And that's also SportsCenter's dream right there. Blake Griffin and LeBron James on the
Kyrie
same team.
just whipping it down the court. Yeah. I mean, that's...
LeBron like behind the back alley-oop, and Blake Griffin like jumps from the 3-point line and slams it home with two hands. Like that's just that's SportsCenter porn.
So
right
is
there.
Mozgov going to turn into DeAndre Jordan or what? Like if he goes crazy, I'm going to lose my shit.
There's just no DeAndre there. There's like I don't know.
I mean, but think about this on the boards.
Honestly, I think this might be the biggest problem is that you trade Blake Griffin to Mozgov, and Mozgov's known for that Blake Griffin dunk where Blake Griffin just jumped up and threw it in over his head.
So there might be some ill will there.
Exactly. Mozgov might be scared to step out on the court with Blake Griffin because he doesn't know where that ball's going. But I think Blake Griffin kind of fits better than K-Love, and I feel like that athleticism just kind of makes. And Tyronn Lue said that he wants Cleveland to be a quicker team. He doesn't want them to be setting up. He wants like quick, fast-paced offense.
He also called them fat.
He wants them to be
shape.
Yeah. He wants them to start running and get them like in shape and have them be a quick team. Blake Griffin makes you that quick team. I mean, you have to wait 4 to 6 weeks for the hand to heal up.
But honestly, this is a team that can afford to wait 4 to 6 weeks. They're already winning the East, and they're
going to win the East.
I was going to say,
Toronto's given some trouble, but
Toronto is a fun team to watch. But at the same time, like I'm sorry, you put LeBron and Kyrie in, and it's hard to lose games.
Here's the only thing that I think of, though, with K-Love and why I think the Cavs might not trade him. And it goes solely off of the Cleveland right now, like we said, is winning the East. They're going to win the East. They're going to be number one. Maybe they go, hey, we don't need to change anything because they're not thinking about, oh, well, when we get to Golden State, when we get to San Antonio, when we maybe the Thunder, let's be honest, it's not going to be the Thunder.
Probably not.
When we get to that finals, oh, wait, we should have thought about this back in February.
You say that like the Cavs don't want to change up anything because they're winning. They just fired their head coach because they were winning. Like they wanted to bring in Tyronn Lue, and I feel like
they had a postseason preview matchup back to back and proved they just don't have it.
And Blake Griffin's more athletic to cover a LaMarcus Aldridge and cover a Draymond Green. Where that might be what Cleveland's kind of losing out on is that they don't have the athletic big, or in their mind they don't have that athletic big. And K-Love's not like a star defender, and he's not one of the worst defenders. He's middle of the pack. He ranks 14th defensively among power forwards, and if there's 30 starting power forwards, he's in the middle. But Blake Griffin, he might not be. He doesn't have statistically better numbers. He's not like averaging more blocks than K-Love or more steals. They're kind of hovering around the same numbers, but Blake Griffin's just big. He's just more. He's quicker to
and
cover
like we said, he's more athletic, and
I mean, quite a bit more physical too.
And with the Warriors, I'm going to use them as the example because to me, I'm sorry, San Antonio. Right now, I do not have you in the finals. I have the Warriors in the finals. And I mean, whether it's Draymond down low or when they stretch it out with Barnes and there are other players other than Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, maybe having an athletic Blake Griffin could help the Cavs. Like, hey, you know what? When he can guard outside, he can guard inside. K-Love's a good defender. He's not bad, but he's not that. The athleticism for me is what Blake brings to the table.
When I think of, like, you know, the reason why they want an athletic defender is just I think of the finals and Draymond Green is that, you know, Blake Griffin's quick enough to defend Draymond Green, and the big thing is that, like, Draymond Green's unstoppable on the pick and roll with Steph Curry because you can't leave Steph open because, you know, you got to have, you know, someone on him because a three-pointer is just a layup for him, and then you got to cover Draymond because Draymond could hit any shot. So it's just...
Well, and I know there's Cavs fans right now throwing stuff at their computers or throwing their iPhone because they're like, guys, K-Love didn't play when we played the Warriors last year.
But he played earlier this year. He played this season, when you guys got demolished, much like the Spurs did.
That's a pretty clear picture of what to expect.
And I think it works out for both teams because K-Love is going to get out of this, you know, toxic situation in Cleveland. He's going to go back to his hometown in L.A. He played at UCLA, so I mean that's kind of a easy fit there. Kevin Love kind of fits more with that system where, you know, he can step outside and shoot with like a JJ Redick or like a Jamal Crawford if like Crawford drives or like if Paul drives, he could step out. It's a great pick and pop role. But then he could also play with DeAndre Jordan like in cutting situations or he could even post up. And I feel like if Blake Griffin's averaging like these kind of numbers, K-Love might be able to go back to like the 2020 days of K-Love. So I feel like it works better because, you know, Doc Rivers gets out Blake Griffin, who's kind of, you know, adding problems to this Clippers locker room. You get him out of here, and it makes Cleveland a better team. Cleveland might be able to deal with his problems better because it's not a big market like LA is. I know the situation happened in Toronto, but you know he might
say he'll make new friends to punch in the face.
Maybe he'll punch LeBron in the face.
Wouldn't that be something?
We don't know. Could you imagine
maybe he'll
that
punch
happened?
Delly? Then you'll love Blake Griffin.
I mean,
I would love Blake Griffin if he punched Dellavedova in the face.
But then you know,
I hate Dellavedova.
Delly might be going in the trade. When I worked it out in the trade machine, I just thinking K-Love for Blake Griffin works straight up. But I think, you know, Cleveland will want or LA will want more than that. So you get K-Love and picks possibly, or even K-Love and Delly because the salaries work. Delly's an expiring contract, and he's also, you know, just good off the bench for defense because JJ Redick's not the best defender in the world. Jamal Crawford's not the best defender in the world. I mean, outside of Chris Paul, there's no really guards that can defend on that team. So I feel like you could add, you know, some grit that you're losing in Blake Griffin with Delly.
But on the other hand, I mean, Clippers, as far as getting rid of people, Stephenson, people forget that man's been sitting on the bench for a lot of the season. He doesn't seem to be being used at all. I'm not saying when he's in, he's fantastic, but he's a young guy. He's still 25.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like there's got to be hope.
Somebody
can use him.
Can he coexist on the same team that he did a little into the face of?
I mean,
possibly. I mean, I there was a little
during practice he's blowing on LeBron.
Past Pacers Cleveland game, Lance Stephenson was kind of buddying up to Paul George and George Hill. So maybe the Pacers, you know, make the trade, maybe picks for Lance Stephenson, so Lance Stephenson can get in a familiar position,
so he can go back home.
Come back, yeah,
Not
and then
home, but you know what I mean.
And then if the Pacers are in the 8th seed, then they go up against Cleveland, and then we can hear the
all over again.
That sweet whisper.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to go on Twitter for like 2 months if he got traded back to the Pacers and played Cleveland in the playoffs. But I think that trade Blake Griffin for K-Love works straight up, and I think it should happen. If that's if it happens, that's like a big blockbuster
it does seem
trade.
like a win-win. Yeah.
And if you're sitting there going, well, but Ricky, Dave said he's been sitting on the bench. Why? I don't think it's because Lance Stephenson's like, oh, you're bad, we're going to sit you. Because when he played 22 against the Lakers this past Friday,
it was the Lakers.
He had 16 points, 5 rebounds.
To be fair, Lakers.
It was the Lakers, but I mean, you give him 20-plus minutes, okay, he can do something. It's just like you've said before, Dave. They just don't know how to use them.
Yeah, I mean, he had such an open case previously, and now he got passed off to the Clippers because he didn't perform last year. And on the Clippers,
didn't perform in Charlotte at all.
No.
I mean, it just total whiff.
It's been Pacers. The Pacers is the only team he's really performed on.
But you saw the potential. I mean, he was an absolute monster. He's running everywhere. He was almost putting up triple doubles. This guy is so long, so athletic. And it's just, I don't know what needs to click right for him. Maybe it's the atmosphere. And I think you could have a point with going back home.
Yeah, and then final thoughts on Lance Stephenson, because we're talking about Blake Griffin.
I know, I know, I'm sorry.
Well, it's more of a Clipper discussion.
If we do trade,
we're trying to fix this Clippers team so they can compete in the West, because they are.
Chris Paul is underrated. Chris Paul is the second best point guard in the league, in my opinion.
That's a bold statement.
Behind Steph Curry.
That's a bold statement.
Who else is better? Lowry, maybe?
I mean, Lowry's playing lights out.
But I would still pick Chris Paul. Chris Paul has been consistent through. Like, if you look at his rookie year to now, consistent, ridiculous numbers.
You're right.
So, I mean, I feel like Chris Paul, he is a point guard that should be winning an NBA championship. And if he doesn't win an NBA championship in his career, he'll probably be like a top 5 player who never won an NBA championship. Because, I mean, it's stupid how Chris Paul has never won a championship. And I see if they trade Blake Griffin, they kind of turn into like the old Warriors maybe, but with a better big in DeAndre Jordan.
I'm going to throw this out there. If CP3 doesn't win a title, are we then saying, well, okay, who's the best player to never win a title, AI or CP3? I mean, I'd still say AI, but are we throwing then CP3 into that kind of pool?
AI had a better prime. CP3 had career longevity. I mean,
yeah. I mean, if I'm picking a player to draft, I'd pick Chris Paul. But I mean, if I'm picking a guy for a pickup game, I'm picking AI.
I was gonna say.
AI.
So it's different. Like, AI is the more dynamic player, and AI has the better highlights. But I feel like Chris Paul is more the complete.
We've had comments. Others have said it. Just that AI could arguably be the best player to never win an NBA Finals.
Yeah, there's a lot of other players though. I can't think of like a lot of older players who put up ridiculous numbers. Like, I don't think Oscar Robertson won a championship, but like, Oscar Robertson
same era,
triple double in a whole season.
But the one thing I wanted to ask, to kind of because you said we're nearing the end of this Blake Griffin discussion, just a simple yes or no. If you're the Clippers, because of what happened, do you trade Blake Griffin? A definitive yes or a definitive no?
I think it pushed over the line. I mean, they were already winning, and now he's drawing attention to himself in a negative manner. He's not going to be there anyway. Why not?
It's an easy yes for me. I think they're a better team. Even regardless of the punch, I feel like they should have maybe traded him now, because you see what they are with him having this knee injury. They're just a better team without him.
Exactly.
And I feel like another team would pay a big ticket to get Blake Griffin on their team, even without the off-court issues and on-court. I mean, they see the on-court productiveness, and they see that outweighs. Yeah,
see,
outweighs there.
I'm in agreement with Sean. I say trade him. However, I just brought up the question because there is an article on ESPN where Doc Rivers basically said, you got to forgive. He goes, and I quote, he feels awful about it, he being Blake Griffin, and he's letting everyone know about it. That's all you can do. You have to forgive people at some point. I believe that. We built a whatever library, blah, blah, blah. My goodness, Doc Rivers, end quote. Both is you just got to forgive them. So it looks like the Clippers may not be taking our advice and maybe keeping them.
And the thing that clicked you bring up the ESPN article, the other thing that clicked the K-Love for Blake Griffin thing was there was an article that maybe the Clippers should trade Blake Griffin. We're saying they should. And then there's another thing that should the Cleveland Cavaliers trade Kevin Love. So, I mean,
seems like a perfect mashup.
It does. And I mean, I feel like both guys just getting a fresh start would be better.